Okay, my friends, we all know NASA is up on Mars and they're looking for fossils. And I say, ooh, they may have found fossils. What do they think they found? Some slime or something, microscopic fossils. Well, guess what? Over the past 5.5 years, I've been following this very closely, and I'll show you what I found. They say they've been mapping and imaging Mars. Well, guess what they did find that they totally missed? This is right here from the early days, the Mars crab. They said, what the heck is this thing? This is a blow up. Well, what it is an artery. This is the artery. And they have the blood vessels that pump blood into the muscles. You see these? These are muscles. These are layers of muscle. These breaks in between are what they call the sarcomere tips. And this is what allows your muscles to pull in and out. But they have to have a lot of blood to do their work. There's a lot of oxygenation, there's a lot of glucose, there's a lot of energy going on there. Now, when this gigantic creature, whatever it was, died, the flesh just deteriorates. And in the case of Mars, it doesn't turn into mud like it does here on Earth. It turns into like dust. It's a red planet. All of the red flesh has turned into red dust. Now this is, don't forget, now I'm saying, this is muscle. These are the sarcomeres. This is cellular material, plasma, red blood cells, muscle fiber, muscle stuff, red flesh. And the other parts are the strappy pulley material and your blood vessels. Now, let's see if there's anything else I can say about Mars of gigantic proportion, because this is absolutely enormous. I don't know the actual size, but it's huge. And it's the exact same thing on Earth. Exactly the same. I've been showing it for 10 years. And it's time to start paying attention. This is insanity. They're up on Mars, and they don't understand what they're looking at. What they need to do is get some people that understand biology and anatomy, which I do, and I have people that do. And then they understand the blood vessels. You see over there? Can you see that? Okay. You see down here, there's arteries and veins. Arteries have no stoppage in them. The veins have valves. It can't come back this way. Once the blood goes through, the case closed, it's headed up into the pulmonary system to send it through the liver and all that business to get cleaned up. But the arteries, they're already oxygenated, full of their nutrients, and then just push down, and they have the little pins coming out the side of them all over the place for their nutrition. That's the Mars crab. Before I show you the Mars Morse code, these are the Interstitium balls, and they are well, I'm going to show you right now. These are what anchors flesh so that it returns, as it can squish this way and pull that way, but it'll all come back. I'll show you. All right, what you're going to see on Mars is this. These are the Mars Morse code. These are the blueberries, and they have straps, and they pull this way when they're stretched, and they gather and crunch this way when they're pushed together. There's a layer of skin that has eroded, and all of this is eroded, and all you see now is the straps and the balls and the fact that the skin has been pulled. All right, this is the Mars Morse code. All this is gathered skin, stretched skin, stretched skin. This is eroded like a sandblaster up there because they don't have much water erosion. Apparently there wasn't a whole lot. It's just sort of sandblasted. Now these are the balls, and you see the straps are stretched. That's your skin goes like this, but it can come back. And then everything gets to the same homogeneous density, and then you're back to your skin is returned to normal. That, my friend, I'm not sure what the size of this is. I don't see any dimension on this, but I know it's huge. I mean, the things that are on the Earth, there's absolutely nobody could ever thought about it. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, let's look at it. It's insanity to just say, oh, we can't look at it. It's just too much for us to accept. What is, and what is not. Gavish? If it is, it is. You look at it and you say, well, it is or it isn't. I want somebody to say it isn't. Nobody says that. They just say, well, I don't want to see. I think it's time to just open your eyes. I mean, they're out in Mars, walking around in circles like it doesn't, this is nothing. It's 5 years ago I've been posting about this. And I've been sending it to everybody involved. Not a single response, not one. So, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but what are you going to do? I should go in the woods and shut up and just let them walk around in circles, spend all our money? It's insanity, absolute insanity. These are those stone balls. In here was the interstitium in the fleshy layer. Those balls were all in this, and this came all the way out. And that is the white-skinned person or creature, whatever it was, on top of the red flesh with the interstitium balls, which has eroded because it's on the shoreline, and they have just fallen down into the muddy residue of the flesh. Okay, I'm just going to play this for a second. These are the guys that are looking into the Bosnian pyramids for years. And I contacted him, I think, years ago. Sam Osmakowicz, I think, or something like that. Anyway, here it goes.
These direct observations made by Dr. Osmanagic were also the countless anecdotal stories told to him by the local population. The older generations would speak of how they used to play as children in underground tunnels all around Visoko. Tunnels that later had their entrances sealed by the authorities during the time of Yugoslavia. Knowing the association between subterranean passages, hollow spaces, chambers, and almost all known ancient pyramids around the world, Dr. Osmanagic recognized the significance of these locally told stories.
All right, I do too. Now, let's look at what that is all about. Here's a dragon scale right here. That is a dragon scale. It looks like a pyramid. No question, it looks like a pyramid. And that's the little latch that latches it in. And there is blood vessels in here. We're going to be able to look at the blood and the little blood vessels. And the glue, literally, that glues them down against each other. And these were the dragon scale bumps. You know, they call them pyramids over there. And we're going to be able to see in the microscope extreme amounts of, oh boy, you're not going to see it. I wetted this. Normally it's not this wet. Well, this is a good spot. You see how there's a ton of different little, stripes, and they say, oh, that must have been a geopolymer to be made like this in a pyramid shape. Well, it's not. It was grown. That's a dragon scale. And, this was, Greg Morrison did a bunch of dragon stuff. He's my dragon guy. And he sent me a feathered serpent feather that's like this thick. I mean, it's just gigantic. And it's almost identical to a turkey feather. Hold on, I'll show you the picture. Okay, how cool is this? Greg Morrison goes, he did the whole East Coast. And there's this gigantic, I mean, you just can't even imagine. So here's a turkey feather. And that feather is next to that road. And he chunked off a piece of that feather. And that feather is just gigantic. It's gigantic. It's a feather. And that is a dragon scale. He found that. I don't know where he got that from. Somewhere on his travels. He found all kinds of stuff. And he sent me all kinds of things. And you see all these different variations? See how many layers there is there? You see that? That's just absolutely unbelievable, the number of layers of tissue that these dragon scales had. And that makes them almost, I mean, you can't, it's not like you can break it and it will break and it cleave right down the side. No, it won't do that. It'll snip, snip, snip. So this thing is like, this is like tank armor. I mean, this is like, you're never going to get through this, baby. Unless you had a great and mighty sword. And that's what they said happened to that big dragon in the desert. That was written about. I mean, I'm not talking nothing here. This was all written about. And that sure as hell looks like a pyramid to me. Okay, my friends, what you are looking at right here is a scale of what I believe is a dragon. That is the blood supply, vein, and I mean the artery and the vein, which supply everything in every creature's body with some form of nutrition. These are all the layers. You see how many zillions of layers? There's thick, and then and they follow the blood patterns and so forth, and they distribute the blood. And all of these layers, this is the pyramid, and I'll show it to you right now. Here it is right here. All right, this is that dragon scale, and that was with the blood I just showed you. Now, that is it's a pyramid. It's a damn pyramid. It's exactly identical to any pyramid I've ever seen. Now, this is the tab that holds the scale, and then it follows along here, and then there's more blood down here. You see here? There's more blood supply down in here. We could look at that in the microscope. I mean, I have. It's what it is it's a blood supply. And then there's like a gluey substance. You see this here? Some kind of glue that, that held it down in the cradle of the next one. They layered over each other over and over. Now, hold on a second. All right, these are the kind of caves that are all over the earth, and that's a tiny one. That's in muscle. Muscles don't have the big arteries, and then you got your digestive systems, and it's just enormous. So and their caves run for hundreds of miles because these creatures were hundreds of miles long, and their digestive system were hundreds of miles long, and they have gone into these caves now. And the arteries themselves, you could drive tanks through some of these arteries. This is just as a puppy. This is a little tiny thing. Okay, my friends, going to be short, quick, and simple. This is Samir Osmagowicz, and he is the Bosnian period giant stone ball guy. Well, let's look into this. These were found in the 70s, these gigantic stone balls. Nobody knew what they were. They still don't. All right, so he's got the gigantic balls, and they say, unfortunately, though, he's always made some other claims.
Headlines. Known as the Bosnian Indiana Jones, Samir had developed quite a reputation for making outrageous claims over the years. While he was confident that the sphere had been created by other human beings, his contemporaries, on the other hand, were not so sure. Most of them believed that the object may not have been man-made at all. One expert, Dr. Mandy Edwards of Manchester University, believed that the sphere was actually formed by precipitation of natural mineral cement within the spaces between sediment grains.
They call this concretion. Nobody has any idea. These are biological. Here's where those stone balls come from. They're the stone balls that are inside, they are anchors in biological creatures that anchor to their tendons and muscles and bones and so forth. That is what those tendon balls are. You see that? That's a tendon ball. There was a mat of flesh here at one time that ball was stuck into. That's the strap. There was another strap right here. You see the core ran down probably to this one. They are all over the place. There are bazillions of them around here because that's how they cluster. And at one time, that tendon strap ran down to a ball just like that was placed in muscle tissue or whatever, and that muscle tissue had eroded away, and you can just see the top of the strap, the ball attached to the strap. That's what we just saw. This is why they gush water out of the tops of the mountains, is because there's arteries in there and the ground pressure pushes up. That's why you have these waterfalls. It's from arterial passageways. That's tissue layers. It's not sedimentation. They missed every single thing. There was giants in the earth in those days. That was not a lie. And these are blood vessels gushing water out of that giant now. Get an anatomy book. They start looking close at this stuff. This is what is inside the spleen and your gallbladder and your liver and your kidneys and all that stuff. This is not, and you see this exact identical stuff on the earth. Now, you also have transition zones where certain stuff is done on one side of the transition zone and absorption is done on the other and that type of thing. There's membranes running all through your body everywhere. And it is so complicated and it's also so simple. Once you understand it, you have to understand everything has to be separated from everything else. And how does it do it? Membranes, fascia. It's a coating, a rubber bag around everything. It has to be able to move and gush and do this and that. There's all kinds of flexible collagen fibers and kerogens and keratins and all of that stuff can be fully and totally understood and analyzed, and I have totally and fully understood it and analyzed it. Thank you. You see that? That's a tendon mat that's in China. You see these little ripples? I'm going to show you this in a second. And these little spots and these colors. The reason these colors are different colors are because they're different layers of tissue. And they have different abrupt transitioning and different absorptive values and all that kind of stuff. This is what allows your body to do all the kind of flexibility that it has. And I'll show you this in a living tissue. All right, this is that living tissue, and these are the little edges that you saw with those little black spots in them. Now all of these different little stripes would change colors depending upon what the actual tissue was made of, because it's going to search for different transition metals, and they are the different colors, and they will stabilize these, and then it will just become like rock, only we saw it was highly colored.